Oh man, I got worried there for a second. What an awful interest for me because the video froze. I'm like, oh no, this is not the time for that to happen. What's up, Lee? Man, it's week 9 recap show. How you doing this Saturday morning?
I am good, and I don't know. It's just kind of feeling normal. I don't know.
Kind of feel normal.
I don't know.
So, all right, sounds good, man. Oh, what a wacky night we had last night. Not in the games that we watched or the game that we watched. That was quite what we thought it was going to be, as well as Thursday night. But other games around the area, we had the Battle of the Axe be a low scoring, close affair. Again, we talked about it on Wednesday. If Louisville wins, it's usually a lower scoring, closer game, and that's kind of what happened last night. We had Lake Dallas completely throwing a wrench into the whole playoff scenario, and a result that I honestly didn't expect with a comeback win over Emerson. Same thing with Denton over Memorial for the second straight week. Yeah, it was a bonkers week, and we've got playoff chatter to talk about. Just want to issue a correction from on the platform. We said that Denton and Lake Dallas clinched last night, but in looking over it again, there is a scenario where even still Independence and Lake Dallas or Denton and Emerson can all be tied at 3-3 and force a three-way tie to settle the third and fourth playoff spot. So fun times. I apologize to the fans if you're watching this in real time. I apologize to you or if you're watching after the fact and whatever. Even Lee, I apologize to you for being wrong. Because I don't like being wrong.
Appreciate it.
I don't like being wrong in terms of sports factualities, and this was one of those situations. So yeah, man, let's just roll right into it though. It's week 9. It's the recap show. Steven Peters, your managing editor, Lee Livingston, our technical director and photogs or videographer, I should say, editor, a lot of the other behind the scenes stuff that you don't really see a lot of, but you can see him roaming on the sideline with his hair flapping in the breeze as he's running from end zone to end zone with his camera. Man, just got 2 weeks left. Here we go, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's I guess it's just gearing up, pedal to the metal, or pedal to, I don't know. I was just completely lost the expression there. Pedal to the metal.
We're gearing up for the finish, man. We're in the
yeah,
home stretch and everything.
Almost
So
there, and then it's playoff time. And
yeah, actually, it was funny. Someone I follow, his name is Tony Blaylock. He's down in Houston. His handle is at TXHSFB, so Texas High School Football, the known hashtag. But he got that handle or whatever. Anywho, I think he said earlier in this week we had officially crossed like the official halfway mark of the season. If you throw in regular season to the end of the 6A, I think it's D2 would be the final game this year, state championship. So from the opening kickoff of week 1 to the end of the season, like we hit the official halfway mark, which is like 57 days, I think, which doesn't seem like all that much, but it's crazy. So, yeah. So we're halfway there through the season, pretty much, of playoffs and regular season. So we got a lot to talk about. We want to get into some stock up. We want to talk about who's clinched, and then we want to talk about a little of the standings chatter. We'll break down our teams in the area, where they're at in the standings. If they and if the what they've got to do to move forward, and there might be some on the fly figuring out in this show. Might be a little bit rough. There's a lot to figure, a lot to get processed and everything. So let's just kind of get into it, man. Let's actually, before that, I want to hear from you what we saw this past week. With Nelson and Keller Central, what you saw there. And then Aubrey and Sanger last night.
I think I'll go ahead and start with Aubrey and Sanger since we saw them play yesterday. I think the biggest thing for me was seeing Aubrey in person for the first time since we saw them what feels like ages ago at the beginning of the season. Uh, looked better to me. Now Sanger struggled a lot, so I don't think necessarily this wasn't seeing them against the highest level of competition or anything. Coach Ivy talked about playing uh, better teams in non-district to get ready for district play and such. Big thing that stood out to me was the quarterback play. It looked better, just a whole lot better. How they were throwing the ball, it was not.
They
Uh,
weren't
they
gadget
were,
throws. Like they were
yeah, no,
legit
these were actual
run up plays.
throws, and there was some zip on the ball. They were hitting guys that kind of on the run,
Yeah.
right in the chest where it needed to be, giving guys a chance to make a play while they're out there. And I think that's going to be really helpful for them when they get into the playoffs, because this offense just looked a lot better. I think they're going to be a lot more equipped to deal with whoever they play in the playoffs. If they're able to do those things and execute stuff, stretching the field a little bit. We saw them. I think maybe, I don't know if they were working on stuff, but they were actually trying to stretch the field a little bit with their passing game. And I think they were working on a little bit of a 2-minute drill type of deal there at one point, because they were. It was they were in the shotgun, and I don't know if they went 3 wide, if they were in a. I'm trying to think of the what their actual formation was and such, but I think they had at least 2 or 3 receivers out there, which was not the Aubrey that we're used to, but it was a 2-minute drill, and they were out there. They threw the ball 3 or 4 times on one drive. So that was, and they were going hurry up, and it was like, okay, like this is a different Aubrey, and it was working for them. But I feel more confident that if they were trailing, they're not done.
Yeah, 100%. I think that was my biggest takeaway too last night, and it was early on. Is like, oh snap! This hasn't just been. We need to force the pass and use whoever we can to do it. It looks like that Brock Temple is now that quarterback guy for them the rest of this year, and he was connecting, and we've seen that in the other box scores earlier the last few weeks. Is 8 of 10, 6 of 6, or something like that, where they're connecting and making good plays down the field. It's not just little swing passes and hope that you get your guys in space and to break off long runs. No, they were going over the top. Now, again, the competition was a little bit less with Sanger, and they just a little overmatched in terms of physicality and talent. But you still have to execute. There's still bodies in the way, and they did. So that was my biggest takeaway too, was how Aubrey seemed to be able to have a more diverse or complementary offensive set than what we saw against Panther Creek. Like we harped on it. They don't look like a team that's built to come back from a deficit. Maybe a 1 touchdown, but if you get to 2 scores on them, you can kind of milk the clock on it, because their offense, their passing game is just non-existent, and if you load the box, you can stop them. Well, at least that's what Panther Creek did. So you're right. It's been like almost a whole different season. Like what we saw Aubrey earlier this year, it seems like from 2022, and this is the 2021 or 2023 version this year. So I was highly impressed with everything that they had going for them last night.
Yeah, it felt like like you said. You said it. It's a different team from what we saw at the beginning of the year. That's at the end of the day. And even the defense, I think, looked better. It's hard to gauge because and I don't mean to be rude to Sanger. It's just that offense was bad at the end of the. They did not play well, and they were overmatched. There was a size difference. There's a roster size difference.
Oh yeah,
first year. It was not. And Sanger's a program that's had some success and stuff. So I was kind of surprised with how big the difference was between the 2 rosters.
Yeah.
So I feel a little bit bad for Sanger. But
oh no, my browser has lost connection.
Now kind of back to that Aubrey defense, the Aubrey defense. I liked seeing what we saw. I mean, that D line was tenacious, and that's kind of what I expected to see uh, coming into the season, and didn't quite get that when we saw them play against Panther Creek. All
Yeah,
right,
sorry, I'm here.
yeah,
Somehow
I figured.
my browser lost connection to the camera. I don't even know how that's possible, but apparently it did. So I'll play in the dark. I'll be the voice of God for right now. Um, yeah, it's a stark difference, and I think what they have going and what they're trying to achieve the rest of this season. I think they have one game left. They're off next week. They've clinched a district title because they own the tiebreaker over Van Alstine. So yeah, it's just work on yourselves at this point. So kudos to Aubrey again, winning their fourth straight district championship, and yeah, for Sager, and Sager's point, they lost a lot of kids from last year. It was a really talented team that got to the playoffs. They're trying with a new coach, new system. Still a lot of younger talent. They'll be good. I think next year they'll be good, especially in a couple years. I think they just maybe realignment will do them some wonders and help them as well in that regard. So we'll see. All right. What about your thoughts on Byron Nelson versus Central? It was not a
Byron. I mean, Byron
not a
Nelson's
nice game.
to me. Yeah, no, I think it's just Byron Nelson's Byron Nelson. I think the defense is good. I think it's kind of the same to me as Byron Nelson the last couple of years. They don't feel like they have lost a step or anything. They're going to have a tough game here in a week, next week with South Lake Carroll. The only concerns that I have are kind of what I had a year ago with Byron Nelson, where it's similar to, like, I think if you're a Tennessee Volunteer fan, or if you were an OU fan when Lincoln Riley was there, or even sometimes the Chiefs at the NFL level, where it's this offense is so fast paced that you have to have the defense is just going to have to create a turnover at some point. It feels like your defense, like, you can't just play normal physical stop the other guys type of stuff, because you're going to be on the field too long. It's just not going to work. And that's where I think Byron Nelson's defense this year is a little more equipped for this, just because I think they have the guys they have a nose for the ball it's insane. You just go look at the box scores from previous games. You watch them play against Killer Central. Then, at the end of the day, yeah, they haven't played the toughest teams throughout the year, but they take care of business every single week, and they blow them out every single week. They're getting turnovers, and there's teams that have a tendency, typically you would expect one of those games here or there to see some kind of dip. Byron Nelson hasn't had that. So I'm curious to see what will happen next week with South Lake.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. They definitely do play fast. They get it down or whatever, and they're right on the ball within 2 seconds after it being spotted and ready to go, which makes it a nightmare for people like me trying to track things in real time and everything. But to that end, on the defensive side, they definitely have the horses to compete. It's Leo Almanza out there playing two ways. You have David Kabongo, who shifted strictly basically to a safety cornerback role, because years prior they were running him at gadget plays or as a receiver. Jonathan Cabella, I think the transfer from Heritage, I think that's where he came from. Ashton Williams, another one. I mean, they've got the players in the secondary to definitely keep up with the South Lake Carrolls. And so next week's definitely going to be interesting. They struggled last year against Carroll. I don't know how much of the rain delay was a factor. But yeah, no, the next week's going to be a legit test to see exactly where they are. It was an ugly, very quickly lopsided game. It was 35-0 after one quarter, and I was just like, let's just roll the clock and get out of here. We were talking about it like, hey, man, if you want to leave now, you're more than welcome to. It's a lopsided win, and it's not going to get any better. So, um, yeah, I'm stoked to see that they this season they haven't had that drop off, but also kind of hesitant because again that talent disparity that against who they've played has been really big. So now you're going up against a team that's equal, if not better than you. So we'll see. But you're taking care of business. You're in the playoffs. Now it's just left to decide who's going to win district. Something that they're very interested in doing because they haven't done it ever as a program. And deciding who's going to be D or seed 1 or C2 out of Division 2. So still something to be determined, but next week's definitely going to be pretty intense over at Northwest ISD Stadium. All right. So those were the games we saw. Byron Nelson on Thursday, Aubrey and Sanger on last night. So let's get into some stock up. We don't really have a stock down this week. We're just going to talk about the stock up just based off of the results of last night. We'll start it off with Lake Dallas. We led off the show apologizing about the erroneous fact that I threw out there this past week and last night about Lake Dallas, but they took down Emerson. They erased a 12-point deficit in the last 4:28 to win. Bortnam threw his third touchdown pass of the night, went to Henry with 18 seconds left. They missed a 2-point conversion, but still, to me that's a shocker result. What are your thoughts on that one?
You know what? I mean, we talked about it with Argyle before the Argyle game, and I think we should have talked about it a little bit going into this game. Lake Dallas wanting to be in that kind of that next tier, like they've been knocking. It feels like they've been knocking on the door for a really long time. Even back, prior to me being in high school, when Lake Dallas was kind of in the district with Geyer, there were a year. They've always kind of been an up and down program where they would have some talent. They would kind of be neck and neck, giving Geyer a little bit of trouble, maybe giving Ryan a little bit of trouble when they were all in the same district.
Yep.
They could never quite take down those teams. And then they came back a little bit, had some good years. And then right now, for whatever reason, I think Coach Young's done a fantastic job.
Correct.
We saw it last year, so close to taking down Argyle, and then Argyle ran away in the fourth quarter. Got blown out by Argyle this year. This Emerson game to me feels like just a great jumping off point for them to just take off and go do some damage, wreak some havoc in the playoffs. So I want to be like, oh, I'm surprised they beat Emerson, but to me it's like a little bit of a like I knew this team could do it. Like, man, like they just had all the pieces, all the parts.
Yeah.
And I want it to be this thing where like just go do it like Dallas. Like you have it. It's there. Like go deeper in the playoffs than you ever have before. Like show everyone kind of what this program can be, because I think they have everything that they need to go, make a pretty deep run, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely control your destiny now, and you can now face the bottom half of 4 or 5A D1 or D2, excuse me, as opposed to now facing the top. Now there's still very much a possibility where things fall off the wheels fall off the wagon, and you're tied, and you hope to win the tiebreaker and all that stuff to get in. But yeah, I honestly, in my mind, I had kind of chalked this one up as an Emerson win, just because we had seen already, Argyle, it took a heroic moment very late for them to take down Emerson. I felt like Emerson was inevitable 2 weeks ago. I thought they were, clear cut best team in the district. They were rolling over everybody. I know we had a comment a few weeks ago from someone saying they had played a cupcake schedule. Same thing with Lake Dallas. This was prior to the Argyle Lake Dallas game, actually. We had that comment, and I agreed with the Lake Dallas. I didn't quite agree with Emerson, but come to find out, Argyle still a cut above Emerson. But I started playing that whole transitive, property in my head. Okay, so Argyle beat Emerson, and Argyle's beaten Lake Dallas. I still don't know exactly how good Lake Dallas could be, so I'm just going to chalk that up in my mind to a loss. And kudos to them for being able to shake off 2 turnovers or 2 interceptions from Cade, get the game-winning touchdown, and put their destiny in their own hands and show that, hey, we are not now that second or third tier team in district or in the area. We're legit. We're going to make some noise. Maybe that 31 point loss to Argyle was just a fluke night for whatever reason, but you take down an Emerson team that was up until a couple weeks ago just
I think it's possible
rolling.
I was just gonna say, I think it's possible maybe they, along with us as kind of fans, like put more pressure on that game than they needed to,
Maybe,
right? Like in
maybe
that
so.
Argyle game, like and so and then you come out against Emerson because I think we talked about it on. I know you mentioned it. It's like you thought Emerson was going to come out angry after they lost to Argyle the way they
Yep.
did, and they may have. And it's just like Dallas is good, and I'm hoping that's what it is. So
Yeah, same here. I hope so too.
You know,
I
man,
definitely.
I want it.
I do
Like,
too. I want Lake Dallas to go far, more so than just a round, because I think they got bounced in the first round last year, and so
yeah,
I want to see them go 2 to 3 rounds deep and shock some team or some people and make them their case known. All right, so very good on that one. Next one is Geyer. It's hard to say a consistent state title team. Getting to stock up, but you take out Allen, who had been rolling the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Geyer, like we had mentioned, had been up and down. Yeah, you rolled through some pretty bad teams the weeks prior as well. So now you had your real test, and the big road win. And I want to say this was Geyer's first win in Allen ever, or yeah, I feel like that's correct.
it sounds right. I don't remember them
Because I
winning in
think last
Allen.
year was the first year they had ever beaten Allen.
Yeah,
If
I
I'm not,
don't remember. I think that's correct. This was the first time they've beaten Allen was last year, and
and
that
that
this
was
is the
at
first. I
home.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big road win. Allen's not regardless of how down they might be or whatever. That's not a place that you oftentimes go in and win on. So to take down them, to hold that offense in check, as well as the offense doing just enough with Isaac Harney again. Um, strong indication that Geyer is ready to make some noise, and I'm looking forward to next week against McKinney to see how they stack up there, because that's going to determine the seeding for D2.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game. McKinney and Geyer. Last year, McKinney gave them a lot of trouble, and that was
Yep.
with Jackson Arnold, Peyton Bowen.
Yeah, a lot of
So
talent.
I don't.
Absolutely.
I'm very interested to see what'll happen this year because the talent level, when we're just talking pure, we're just talking raw talent, like on paper, it's kind of flipped a little bit. Obviously, Geyer very talented.
Yeah,
Lots
but the
of
studs
college
are
sports, but
now.
the 5-star, when you're talking about just how many 5 stars and nationally level like dudes that are getting offers from any college, they can just pick and choose where they want to go. There's more of those over at McKinney right now. There's obviously quite a few D1 guys over at Geyer right now, but man, there's some monsters at McKinney, which is why they were kind of a team that a lot of people throughout North Texas that covered the North Texas area were like, oh, McKinney's a state title team. And I don't know, they've kind of done the same. I don't know. It feels like a lot of the 5-6 feels like the entire district of 5-6A has just been this weird roller coaster of
outside of
even
close. I was going to say
even Prosper has been
I don't know
somewhat
about
consistent, but like even they've, I don't know. It feels like no one in that district has really made me go, oh wow.
I would say Prosper has only been the most consistent team in that district, just because their only loss is a close one to blank on it. Was it Longview? I can't remember.
I'll pull it up as we transition.
But they've been the most consistent in district play. I mean, they're undefeated.
That's the one thing. That's the thing I was going to point out is I don't think they had I think they had a pretty bad non-district.
Let's see. So you beat Trinity by 1. You beat Saxe by 36. Rockwall was the team they lost to by 6, and then you beat Geyer by 3. Maybe they haven't been the most consistent. So you beat Geyer by 3, Rockwall only by 6, but that's a rivalry game. Then you blew the doors off Little Elm, Prosper, and Braswell the last 3 weeks. And now you have Allen and McKinney. So we might figure out what they're all about here in the next couple of
And
weeks.
that Geyer game was a big win for them because Geyer, if this is the Geyer team that we're stock up on, Geyer had kind of started to figure things out right around then.
Yep.
So that
Yeah,
could
for
be
sure.
So I don't. Who knows? I'm not sure about what Prosper's got going on, and I think it's worth mentioning Prosper just because that is a team that one of our 6A teams, like Louisville, they might be playing them in the first round. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure.
So
For sure. Yeah. Well, actually, no. Because Plano currently looking at standings because Plano East is in the top four now. Louisville drops down to D2. They would, yeah. So there's a
that
lot
is
of So it could
shocking.
be it could be Louisville versus Geyer in the first round.
That would be shocking to have
Electric.
Louisville as a Division II.
Yeah, that's what I
That is
said because
insane.
I was not gonna I did not project at all in my
I
head a
didn't think that
Plano
was even
East.
possible. I thought I guess
Uh-uh. All the Plano schools are huge,
I know they're
and
all
so
huge. It's
but
just
Plano
I
East being
thought
in there.
the
Yeah, we'll get into the standings here in a little
okay, yeah,
bit.
we'll get it. Yeah, all right, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
So, all right, couple more teams. Ryan, even though you lost last night, I'm still stock up because you put the defending champs in this 117 game district win streak right up to the brink, and was just minutes away from knocking that off. So going toe to toe, and because we've seen them low, we've seen them high, and they've really ebbed and flowed again this year. I think starting with that the Colony loss, and then bouncing back with Centennial, didn't really understand what they were as a team, but they kept it really close. But so yeah, and it's even with the loss, they move into third place because they had the tiebreaker over Centennial, who beat Brewers. So it's kind of a control your own destiny from here on out. You play Northwest, and I think not Azle, Northwest and Brewer to end your season. So yeah, it's a good effort, and shows that you've improved from your earlier setbacks in the season. And last two team or two teams I should say, sorry, both Frisco schools. We have Reedy, who blew the doors off Frisco high. That one was a very shocking result. I think it was a 42-point win. So Reedy is Frisco, he might be fraudulent. They only scored 10 against Heritage and only scored 3 last night. So it may be a very fraudulent 6-1, 5-1 district record. Reedy is definitely legit. We've seen them a couple of times, and they play their brand of football, which is physical and get those opportunistic throws and use Khalil Smith and all
Tristan
their
Airy.
talent. Huh? Yeah, Tristan Airy.
I was throwing him in there because that dude's
Yeah.
just on
Yeah,
fire.
he's a 100% stud. They play their brand of football. They're going to be a tough team come playoff time. And then I think one of the other bigger, not shocks, but just wow, okay, we know who you are now is Frisco Legacy. They knocked off Grace Community out in Tyler last night. Big road win, and you have the inside track on a district title. We after the Liberty game, kind of didn't really know, just how much of a talent discrepancy there was and how the district would shake out. I think we talked to Wes Tollerson from Texas Private School Media saying, they're good. They might, be second best to Tyler, but now you get that win, and the fate's in your hands. I think you need one more win and your district champs. So hats off to Frisco Legacy.
Yeah, big hats off to them, especially bouncing back after a game against Liberty Christian a few weeks ago. That's always tough, and just to kind of rewrite yourself and go, okay, let's go get this district title.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a
and
team that
especially a 2-hour trip out to, it's a couple hours out to
2.5 hours.
Francisco, so it's not a short bus ride or anything by any means, and so they went out there and took care of business.
Yeah, and to go from a team that missed the playoffs last year, and I think were winless. No, they were like 2-7, I think, or something, or 2-8 last year. Lost on the season finale to Coram Deo to miss out on the playoffs. to then now be, like I said, a game, either a win or a Tyler Grace loss away from a district championship. It's very similar to what happened last year with Liberty Christian. They were a bad team 2 years before. Now, they might be the best damn team in private school football, for all we know. So, so shout out to those 5 schools: Lake Dallas, Geyer, Ryan, Reedy, and Frisco Legacy for Stock Up. All right. So we've talked about a lot of stuff so far. It's been 30 minutes of good chatter. We want to talk a little bit now of playoffs, who's clinched, what the seedings look like moving forward. So here's who we have for teams that have clinched. We have 11 of them, starting with 6A through TAPS. Any surprises that you can see so far? I mean, those look like the teams that we thought would be in, right?
I think so. Outside of maybe Northwest, I mean, Legacy Christian, obviously a little bit of a surprise. I think Northwest being a clinch so early, like at this point in the season, a little bit of a surprise for me, but not like nothing. There's nothing too crazy about them, or Panther Creek, a little bit of a surprise as well. Just the way they've played this year, but they came out just 2-3 weeks into the season. You can kind of tell, everybody. And I mean, and it's the same thing with Northwest. It's like 2-3 weeks into the season, you could tell, all right, this is a really good football team. So it's like, I mean, preseason, would I be a little surprised? Sure. But like after 2-3 weeks into the season, it was like, okay, these teams are legit.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing is I had question about were, for Nelson as an example, who's going to be, let's start with the first 3: Nelson, Geyer, and Northwest. Who's going to be your quarterback? How's that going to shake out? Because these were very pass happy teams last year. Really good quarterbacks who led the area in passing or touchdowns or completion percentage, and they're gone. So what do you do to replace that? Well, they haven't really had to do much to replace them, or they've done well to replace them is kind of what I'm getting at. Nelson with Tom Von Grote. We saw some spurts last year where he had to step in garbage time and play very well. Geyer knew nothing about Logan McLaughlin or Isaac Harney or whomever was going to be the quarterback. And the Northwest, we had seen spurts, the same thing with Lenny Thompson, but they haven't really had to rely a lot on him. More so just going to Ife and Nate Dean, I think is his name. Rely more on their run game, and so they've righted those worries fantastically, and they have clinched playoff spots. And then Panther Creek just didn't know what year 2 would look like. They have a new quarterback who had to sit out last year because of transfer rules, and he has flourished this year. I think leading all the stats when completion percentage, touchdowns, and passing yards so far. So yeah, no, it's been. I'm not surprised by any of these teams that have clinched the playoffs and now just need to determine who's going to or what seeding they're going to be. Alrighty, and then I guess the biggest one surprise is Frisco Legacy. Again, I didn't know what they were this year. I didn't know if they were going to be the same team as last year, maybe just a little bit better or a little bit worse because they have a new coach, some talent graduated, but they completely have surprised me. We talked about that earlier. Just going from a 2-8 team to now damn near district champs. So it's a really, really good turnaround for them, and we have some more teams that are just on the bubble of getting in, and some teams that have some work to do. So we're going to listen to John's message, our nice little 30-second break, and kind of talk about the standings moving forward.
Everything's bigger in Texas, especially Texas high school football. We're entering our 7th season with the Denko Gridiron platform. We started this 7 years ago right across the street at West Oak Coffee Bar. Just an idea to bring content directly wherever you are. Be a part of the community. Join us. Help our contributors to tell the stories each and every Friday night throughout the season. Talking your town, your team.
Oh man, you all right over there? I think crashed or fell out of his chair. All right, so there's John again. If you want to ever partner with us, you can always hit us up at Denko Gridiron. That's on our social medias. If I can find all the good stuff, which I don't see on our overlay. So we have our banners. That's what we're looking for. You know, at Denko Gridiron. That's going to be on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. You can always email us at info@denkogridiron.com if you're interested in partnering or being part of our platform. All righty. So we're going to get into some standings chatter. I'm not sure what happened to Lee, but hopefully he'll come back and be ready to go. So let's go into 4-6A. Last night with Nelson's win, or sorry, Thursday night with Nelson's win and Eaton's loss, Nelson clinched. There's Lee. You all right, man?
Oh yeah, no. I'm good. Yeah, my pops was working on the wall that is directly behind me.
Oh, perfect.
So I was like, "Oh, this is extremely loud," and I don't know if anyone else heard it, but
I heard it.
I could hear you. Could you
we
hear
heard it? Yeah. So John wrapped up his thing on the video. We go with the drum, and then all I hear is a big crash behind you. So I thought you like fell out of your chair or something. So fun times over there. Sounds like.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know. It might have been just me getting out of the chair, but it was like for the last 10 minutes of when we were talking, and I was like, I can't work.
Fair
I
enough.
can't deal with this. This is so loud.
Yep. All right. So we were talking about 4-6A. It's not a lot to go over. We just mentioned it a little bit ago. Nelson is in the playoffs along with Carroll after they both won on Thursday night. Eaton's loss sealed that. So we just determined who is going to be the district champ outright. And the seeding for D2, for D2. Now there is an off chance that I think Eaton would sneak in and change some of the D1, D2. Maybe not. I can't 100% recall off the top of my head. I had to look at my DCTF magazine to see what that shakes out at. But for all
that sounds right, because I remember last year there was some talk about that this district was one of them where there was stuff coming down to the last day, and I think it was Fossil Ridge was one of the teams that was if they got in, then it was possible for like Byron. I think it was Byron Nelson was a team that could have gotten bumped up to D1 or something. I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah.
But somebody was there was somebody, or no, it was South Lake Carroll that was gonna be D2. South Lake Carroll's the one that can get flip-flopped, and it was Fossil Ridge that could have, if had they gotten in, and it came down to the last day of the season where Fossil Ridge or somebody could have flip-flopped them. So that's where I think Eaton could kind of mess things up. Because this district in particular, I remember last year paying attention to it, and I think we even mentioned it in maybe some of your articles or something, or maybe I tweeted about it, because it came down to the last day of the season, and it was actually the same thing regarding DeSoto and stuff, because obviously Geyer was such a team that everyone like, because they were this state title contending team, and we had Louisville as well, having a really good year, where it was like, all right, you got to pay attention to these couple of things, because D1, D2 is really going to be important this year. And obviously last year, D2 ended up having a lot of really good teams, because the last 2 weeks of the season pushed a lot of teams down into D2.
Yeah. I definitely don't remember all of that because there was a lot of...
I got really interested into that stuff for some weird reason. I think it was because Tepper, I think it was Greg Tepper who was in, I don't know if it was Matt Stepp or one of the two of them was tweeting about it a lot, and it was hilarious because it was so fascinating. I was like, oh my, this is weird.
The only thing I remember, not the only thing, but one of the big things I remember is about the chatter about DeSoto wanting to go to play D2 and everything. So that was
wait, they wanted to go play D2?
Yeah, which worked out for them because they won state. So there was some talk from other teams about DeSoto's wish to go play D2 and how they felt about it. But going back to 4-6A, so there's only one possibility of Byron or South Lake Carroll moving up to D1, and that's if either Keller or Timber Creek fall out to Fossil Ridge. So Fossil Ridge somehow makes it, and that would move Byron Nelson to, regardless of the result, if Fossil Ridge, that would move them to D1 or D2 seed 1, and South Lake Carroll would then be Division 1. But that's a very
I don't see that happening this year.
I don't either. If we look at the standings again, Fossil Ridge is 1-4. They've got to win out and then hope for some stupid scenario of them getting in. So essentially, Nelson and Carroll are D2. We'll find out who is D1 or seed 1 next week. All right. Let's go to 5-6A. We know who's in. All of them are settled. With Braswell's loss, Rockwood Hill's loss, or if you want to look at it as Geyer's, McKinney's win, and of course Geyer's win over Allen. We know our 4 teams. We just have to figure out what the seeding is going to be like. That's going to be between McKinney and Geyer. Any other result outside of those two do not matter. Well, I would say it doesn't matter. They could both, win one, lose one, and we're now back to, well, they would be tiebreaker head to head, so it wouldn't matter at that point. So that's who's in. Basically, valiant effort for Braswell this year to get that one win, but they just could not flip. And annoyingly, because Rock Hill could not take down McKinney, even though they were winning that in stretches last night. The Braswell Little Elm game on Thursday that we are going to go see is basically just for pride. Who will finish 5th or who will finish 7th is kind of what's on the line. So it's a pride game. So hopefully there's some good intensity there in that one, but that's the standings for 5-6A. Then we start getting into some mud. As clear as mud when it comes to who's in the playoffs and who's not. We know one team in 6-6A is in, and that's Coppell. They're a win away from locking up district because of their head-to-head with Louisville. But Louisville gets in with the win. They took care of business last night against Marcus. If I can show, where's the icon? I don't have it. I'm trying to find it on my hat, but it's a Louisville hat. I am repping Farmer Pride for keeping the axe where it belongs, and that is in Louisville. With a 14-3 win, but it doesn't do anything to Marcus's standings outside of just dropping them to 4th. So yeah, that's the standings currently right now. What are your thoughts in this? Because it can get really messy with Hebron, Flower Mound, Marcus, and Plano East. There's some scenarios here.
I mean, Flower Mound's playing. They've kind of started to figure it out here. Obviously, they have
to win. They have to win. Basically,
have to win. Hebron's got to win some games.
Hebron last night, they did not look good at all.
I mean, it's like, well, I mean, it feels really obvious. Like these 4 teams are going to be there at the end of the day, but the way this district has played out so far, I have a hard time thinking it's going to be this simple. And these 4 teams,
it absolutely won't be.
I mean, this district has been a giant mess this entire way through. There's no way that these last 2 weeks it'll just play out totally normal, and we're going to have these 4 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Something weird is going to happen. Flower Mound's going to win out. Someone's going to lose out. Hebron's going to win out. I mean, at the end of the day, Louisville could, I wouldn't be like Hebron could just, someone's going to ruin someone else's season is what's going to happen. Plano West or Plano might just ruin a season. I think that's what's going to happen.
Imagine Hebron winning out, and that would include a win over Louisville. Then you start talking about like 4-way ties for 2nd place or some crap like that. And then you have to get into a cluster F of tie-breaking scenarios. And I have not even broached this subject with any of the district executive communities about how you go about figuring out this mess. And so this is when I kind of, at this point of the season, when I wait for the Dallas Morning News to publish what their tiebreaker scenarios are, because they've got the time and the team to do it. So I wait for them to start. Oh, if this happens, or Louisville's in with blah 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 or whatever. So okay, great. I can figure out some of the stuff, most of it. But I'll leave the DMN to figure out that, and I will tailcoat off of that. So yeah, a lot of calamity that can happen here. But this is where things stand right now. Coppell, they've locked up D2 or a playoff spot. They'll probably be D2. Like we said, if
I think
Plano East falls out,
easily, I just feel like Flower Mound. I mean, Flower Mound's got the biggest game of their season here against Coppell. Coppell's playing really well. I don't know. It feels like maybe this is a week madness just ensues in this district, and Coppell goes down. I have no idea.
Yeah, this could be. Absolutely could be. Just like it was in 3-5 AD2, which we'll get to here in a second. But yeah, but right now as it stands, Louisville's D1. And if Plano East falls out, then they'll move down to D2, I believe. Oh, that's a headache. Just to even look at is a headache. All righty. Let's move on to 3-5 AD1. As you can see, we have Aledo, who has clinched a district title with their close win over Ryan. Northwest has locked this spot up. And then you get into Ryan, Centennial, the Colony, and Brewer. Unfortunately for the Colony, there's a lot of hurdles to get through in terms of getting to a playoff spot. You would need Centennial essentially to lose out. So they play Northwest, and I can't remember the other team. Maybe Aledo? I'd have to look at the schedule. But you need Centennial to lose out, and you'd have to win your last game if you're the Colony to get in. Ryan essentially controls its fate. I think if you win one more time and Centennial loses once, then you're in. You can also still get into second place with a win over Northwest this coming up week. So there's a lot of moving parts 2 through 6. We just know that Aledo is the cream of the crop there. Thoughts?
Real quick, just to point out. So sadly for the Colony, Centennial's last game is going to be Azle.
Oh yeah, good call.
So that's rough because Azle has not been the toughest opponent for anybody this year.
Correct. Yeah, you wanted Brewer to win last night over Centennial to make things easier in terms of getting in, but yeah. So you're hoping and praying that Northwest beats Centennial to make that 4-3, and you're then talking about a 3-way tie because Brewer would have to win over. Oh my goodness. Brewer would have to beat Ryan and Aledo to force that issue. So, not likely.
Yeah, I would love for the Colony to get in.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks to be 5-3 in a district potentially and not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they really figured they got off to a slow start, but man, they figured things out. Got such a big win against Ryan. We were at that game, and it was awesome. It was incredible.
That sideline was electric.
It was amazing, and that's why I've been taking so long. Like, obviously, it's I'm still working on it. I hate that I'm still working on it. The video for that, but it's like I wanted it to be this. It feels like this big, massive project just because it's like it deserves it because of how amazing that game was. In particular, probably my favorite game I've been to. That and the Mound Showdown, those two games and back-to-back. Wait, was that the same week?
It might have been.
It might have been. I mean, it was incredible. Like those two games easily stand out as my favorite games of the year so far. Just the atmosphere at those games was just unbelievable. And for them,
no, we saw Louisville that week. It was Louisville.
Okay, we saw Louisville that week. Okay, yeah, it was just a bummer for them to not get in, and because they deserve it, man.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. All righty. So there's 3-5 AD1. Now we move into 6-5 AD1. As we mentioned earlier, Lone Star and Reedy. Frisco looks like a kind of a fraudulent team in terms of being at 5-1. So, Wakeland, I believe, is left on their schedule. So we could easily see Wakeland move up into the 3 spot. And this was a team we talked about. This is a district that could easily batter each other. So 3 through 5 is left to be determined. Wakeland owns the tiebreaker over Heritage. I believe Frisco and Wakeland play next week, if I'm not mistaken. So there's that to be determined. But Reedy and Lone Star, we've seen them a couple times this year. They look the part, right?
Yeah, they look the part of teams ready to just roll through the first couple rounds of the playoffs, in my opinion. Unless they get matched up with somebody else of equal caliber, if not better than them, I don't see them stopping for a little while here this season. Like they look really good, and there's a reason that game between the two of them was so daggum electrifying. It's because they're the cream of the crop in that district, and I think if they play 10 more, they play each other 10 times. It's going to be pretty even split.
Yep. I 100% agree with you on that one. So yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. There's potential for Heritage to get in. We don't really care though, or I don't really care about them.
At the end of the day, I think, and I was just going to add in Wakeland. I feel pretty confident about, and just because I feel confident about them getting that 3 spot. Like you said, they had that tiebreaker over Heritage. Heritage is an okay team from kind of what we've seen. They struggle here and there. They almost given some teams some problems. But then Frisco has a tiebreaker over Heritage, if I'm not mistaken. And then Frisco, their last 2 games are against Reedy and Lone Star. So their only hope is really going to be those 2 teams maybe resting some players or something, which I don't see just because I think Lone Star is going to be trying to win the district title. And Reedy is going to be hoping that Lone Star ends up losing a game here so that they can take home a district title.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. Yeah, Frisco High has Lone Star and Wakeland, so that's the season finale where Wakeland could potentially leap into 3rd, or they could, finish 4th. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. So that's 6-5A D1. Then we move into wrong one. Let's go into the cluster F of 3-5A D2, where we have Argyle, who clinched a playoff spot last week with their win. Now we have Lake Dallas and Denton, and I would have never guessed in a million years on any time we would ever see Denton over Emerson in the standings, but yet here we are. At 3-1, they've won 3 straight since their loss to Emerson. Emerson's lost 2 straight their last 2 weeks. But we have potential where Lake Dallas, Denton, Emerson, Independence, there's 2 different scenarios where there's a 3-way tie. Yeah, this is a mess, but it's a mess. I'm happy to own that I was wrong in saying that Denton would clinch a playoff spot prior to this to last night, and saying that they clinched it last night. But yeah, this is a fun time of year, but the opportunity, chances of the 3-way tie are happening are low, but still there, right? So. But we touched on it a little bit ago too. Seeing Lake Dallas be in that 2nd tier now officially is with that win over Emerson is huge.
Yeah, it's massive. I think for them to finish 2nd in this district is going to be really big for them. And it's going to give them kind of that jolt of, okay, yeah, like I think it's going to give them as a program and as a team, just that extra jolt to go and make a little bit deeper run than they ever have, get a few rounds deep. And then we talked about it on Wednesday that they could be getting bumped down to 4A. And I think that's, that's a future thing, but just when you talk about stock up in a program, big stock up if they get moved down. Because it's like, all right, like you can go compete with those guys. I think, obviously there's really great teams at the 4A level, but for them to get moved down, I think that would just kind of give them a little bit more of even more of a chance to go make some deeper runs. And then with Denton, my worries with Denton, it's not that they won't make the playoffs or anything. I think it's going to be tough for them to finish 3rd just because they do wrap up with Argyle and Lake Dallas. That Lake Dallas game, I think, is interesting because I want to make, I want to see Lake Dallas. I don't want to see any lulls from Lake Dallas after that big win. I want to see ride the peak take care of business these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. It will be a tough hurdle to deal with. So Argyle is definitely the cream of the crop here, but it's, again, you kind of control your fate. You definitely are in if you beat like Dallas in the season finale. You might be in a 3-way tie if you lose that one, and we'll just have to see how Week 10 shakes out. I think Week 10 is really going to determine all the seedings for this district, not the seedings, the playoff teams, and then we'll get into the who's where come that last game. And if, ironically enough, Lake Dallas and Denton being the two teams that are going to be battling for a spot, whether that's last year it was who gets in, and this year it's where you're located. So it's a good to see improvement for both programs, and a different take on the season finale that we got last year.
A little more fun to see them battling for a seed rather than battling to get in. That way we get both in.
Absolutely. All righty. This one's going to be nice and easy. 7-4A D1. Panther Creek is in. Season finale against Salina, which I believe we said we're going to go see, is going to be for the district title. We have Carter and Pinkston still figuring out the last spot and fourth. Nothing to worry about there. And then we get back into some mud. We know Aubrey is the district champ in 5-4A D2 with their tiebreaker over Van Alstyne. They just need one more game is on their schedule. They're off next week. But then we have Crum. Crum was there. They had the chance to get a playoff spot because of saying over Farmersville, and that, or maybe it was a playoff spot. I can't remember.
It was Farmersville last night, and now they got to. I think it's they have to win these last 2 games.
Yeah, so Farmersville, Crum couldn't clinch, but they controlled their destiny. And it was Sanger. Sanger would have been eliminated had Crum lost, or Crum won. Well, Crum lost, and now it still throws in the possibility of Sanger getting in via, I think, a 3-way tie. So 3 through 7 are still in play. It's crazy that we're 2 weeks left into this season, and we have 5 teams who still have a shot for a playoff spot. And we've talked about it with Crum. I thought this was a golden opportunity to show who you were, really ride Ty Tabor to solidify or get a firmer grasp on a playoff spot, and you just missed out, right? So I'm not sure what the stats said about last night or what happened, but they just spit the bit, right? And now you're clawing and fighting to stay relevant in that playoff chase, because now you're a game behind 2 teams. And Crum has Bridgeport and Gainesville. So you would have to win Bridgeport, obviously, and then you'd have to beat Gainesville to at least get in if you don't have a 3-way tie.
Yeah, and so that's what we talked about on Wednesday. Is it's similar to if in baseball or any sport where you have a best 2 out of 3 series, winning game 1 is so important, just because it you get a massive boost in your chances, because it allows you that second game you can kind of do what you want, take some chances, be a little more conservative, however you want to play it. Now all hands on deck this next Friday and the week after that, because especially this first, this week 10, it's a playoff game, right? All intents and purposes, this is a playoff game. If you win that, next week's a playoff game. And even if you get, and then if, let's say you get into the playoffs, if you're Crum, like that's a lot,
Yeah.
So by the time you'll essentially have played 2 playoff games going into week 1, that first playoff game, like this team's going to be tired. And that's the reason winning that first one was so big. You just don't want to be so exhausted going into that first round of the playoffs. You want some wiggle room in how you can play and stuff. Take a little bit of pressure off on some of these games. Give yourself the room to lose one, preferably not lose one, but if you do, it's okay. And now the pressure is really on here the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, but there also is something to be said for playing that playoff mentality style for the last few weeks, as opposed to kind of just backing in and maybe winning on a coin toss and stuff. So there is that, but the road is going to be really tough for Crum, whether you get in and then you have to play a almost undefeated team probably in the first round, or missing out and just having all that effort essentially wasted. I wouldn't say wasted, but like lost. The effort's been lost for nothing. There's no payoff. So, it's tough, but we'll kind of see what shakes out, moving forward for 5-4A in the bottom of that district. All right, so we have a few more standings to talk about before we wrap it up. This one, 4-3A D1, Ponder, man. Ponder had a golden opportunity to wrap up a playoff spot, and we thought that was going to happen. And you lose pretty emphatically to a Peaster team that had not won a district game, and now you're fighting for your life, because while you're still up a game on Peaster, who's on your schedule if you're Ponder? I can tell you, it's Brock. Well, they're 5-3 and 4-0 and ranked in the state, and Whitesboro, who's 3-1 and by all accounts probably still better than you. So you have to win one of these last two games again. Otherwise, if Peaster wins out, which is very possible, because who do they have? Boyd, Pilot Point. It's very possible Peaster gets in, because you spit the bit hard last night against the Greyhounds.
Yeah, really, just disappointing. I don't think there's a whole lot of other ways to say it. Wanted Ponder to win that game so bad. I think part of it's on me. I guess part of it's both of us for assuming they would win. I think kind of just shocked.
To lose 34-0. Like, no,
I think that was the part that's so like it wasn't even. I mean, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, not even close. Not even.
I remember you giving me the update on the sideline last night. It's like, wait.
Yeah, exactly. I was surprised
27-0 at the time.
You had scored 100 points the last 2 weeks. 70 against Pilot Point, 30 against Boyd. All you had to do was just put up a fight, and it doesn't look like you put up a fight. Now, there's intricacies that we're not aware of that might have happened. Maybe Tyson Price went out with an injury or what, but the defense reverted back to not being able to stop anybody and keep your offense in it from last year. So that massively unfortunate. And then, of course, in this district, 4-3 AD1, Pilot Point, because of their loss, is out. And I mean, if we're being honest, we didn't expect them to have a chance. Really, haven't really shown the ability to contend. With the other teams in this district. I mean, losing 70-3 to Ponder, who we're just ripping right now. That says a lot. All righty, so let's wrap up real quick. TAPS 1, District 1, or Division 1, District 1. We have Prestonwood, who clinched a playoff spot, along with Parrish and TCA Addison. Nolan Catholic and Bishop Lynch are the only two left to be determined. So they'll play, I think, next week and determine that one. But Prestonwood is in. Their season finale against Parrish, and the season finale will be for the district title. Any thoughts there?
I don't really think so. For me, I think
they manhandled Bishop Lynch last night.
Glad it feels like they've kind of righted the ship a little bit here from where they were a little while ago.
Yep, absolutely. I 100% agree. All right, over to TAPS 2, District 1. Liberty Christian with a shutout win over Fort Worth Christian. They locked up a playoff spot, and I believe All Saints did too. I'd have to go back and check, but I know Liberty did. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. And so I think they're a win away, which would be the game against All Saints next week or the week after to win district. They won district last year by beating All Saints, and then they end up losing to All Saints in the first round. I think that's how it worked out, right? Or no, they played Parrish. Who did they play last year? Help me out, Lee.
Let's look at this.
I can look it up real quick. I got it. Last week against... All Saints. They won in week 10, 31-0, and they lose 37-20 in the first round or second round, excuse me, of the playoffs after beating Coram Deo. So, but they seem to be a cut above from where they were last year and a cut above everybody else. So shout out to Liberty for clinching a playoff spot and then being a win away from a district title again. And then last but not least in our district standings chatter, Frisco Legacy. Boom, look at you guys. Clinched a playoff spot. You have a half game lead over Tyler Grace, and you just need one more win or Tyler Grace loss, and you're in. Coram Deo lost by 40-something points last night to Grapevine Faith, and we're officially eliminated. Kind of like Pilot Point. Haven't seen a lot that would have inspired and hope anyways, but you're officially done for. But shout out to Legacy for the remarkable turnaround season that they've experienced after going 2-8 last year.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry.
I thought you were going
to.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, oh, I thought you were going to add something there. I was like, really happy with all our TAP schools, man. The last couple of weeks, especially Liberty Christian, just keeps on cruising. Yep. They've just done their thing, and then Frisco Legacy bouncing back. Kind of already talked about them. Feel confident about them going into the playoffs, and then Liberty is just a matter of I think just keeping it rolling through the playoffs. It's don't lose so early. I think it's as simple as I don't really know another way to put it.
It's 4 weeks. It's not like 6 weeks in UIL that you have to deal with. It's 4 weeks, and you'll probably this matchup against All Saints will probably happen again. It'll decide the district next week, and then you play Trinity Christian from Lubbock, and then in a couple of weeks afterward you'll probably play All Saints again. So just don't, I guess, get a big head about what you do against All Saints if you win, because it came back to bite them last year. So. But I feel confident in that defense and what they've been doing. You've held 4 teams off the board this year, 2 other teams under 10 points, and then in your last 4 games, you've only given up 13 points, and that was to Fort Worth Christian when you put up 85. So, yeah, exactly. So
might as well just give it up 0.
Yeah, so the confidence level is really high with Argyle, Liberty Christian, and heading into the playoffs. Whew, that's a lot to get through, man.
Yes,
playoff talk and potentials and everything really drags out because there's a lot of scenarios, and we haven't even broken down all those scenarios. And I think that might be what we do on Wednesday when we are back in the studio to talk and kind of talking about the games that we're going to see, the games that are important, and of course the scenarios moving forward as we try to hopefully present them correctly all the way through. Parting shots for week 9 and looking ahead to the weekend for you, Mr. Lee Livingston.
I think it's just tune in to some of these games outside the district. If you're a team that's already locked up your playoff spot, kind of touched on it a little bit, just paying attention to who you might be matched up with and stuff. If you're a really locked in fan, I think that's always a fun thing to do, is just to start map out your little playoff route and stuff. I think that's always an enjoyable, just to kind of figure out who you might be playing and when and where, and just who's going to be in your region, or who's going to be just in your division. If you're Division 1, Division 2, and 6A, you're just kind of starting to get a picture of who all will be in your bracket in general, and if your by district round or what district you're matched up with, and by district, pay attention to that. Pay attention to things going on there. And if you're a team fighting for a playoff spot, or you're a fan of a team fighting for a playoff spot, man, go out and watch them play. Give them a little extra love.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild last 2 weeks. I know the muddiness that we've brought up in this episode is not going to be any clearer next week. We might have some clarity for some teams, but I still think we're going to be in the thick of all the mud and probably knee deep in it. And I can't wait. We're going to have a lot of content like we did this past week in terms of playoffs. The path forward for some teams, the who can clinch, who can be eliminated, that type of stuff. Again, that's all on DenkoGridiron.com. Oh, let's get some rest, man.
As I try to find our outro. There we go.
All right, man, Lee, you be good.
Will do. Bye, guys.